Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. Just going to be doing a handover video on this Auto-sleeper Nuevo. It's a 2022 vehicle and we're based on the Peugeot Boxer chassis with the, I believe it's a 2.2. Don't hold me to that, but it could be a 2 litre, but I will double check. But yeah, so based on the Peugeot Boxer Auto-sleeper Nuevo, I personally think this is one of my favourite makes and models. I've always loved Autosleeper, and the Nuevo is just, you know, such a fantastic build quality and layout. So what I'll do is I'll start under the bonnet. I'll then work my way all the way around the outside, and then I'll show you inside after that. So on the left-hand side of the bonnet area, we've got pretty much all of your sort of fluids and consumable items and things. So all of this stuff on the left-hand side is kind of reservoirs and things like that. The rest of it is kind of mainly fuses, relays, you know, battery related stuff. So over on the left hand side in this little corner, we've got your washer fluid reservoir there. We've then got power steering fluid, engine coolant and brake fluid just here. To get to these two here, you do need to take off this little cover. So you've got these three little lugs to take off, and that will then allow you to take this out and get to the top. Your engine oil gets topped up through this little cap just here at the top, and your engine oil dipstick is the little brown topped one just down here. So we've also got a couple of stickers along here, so any touch-up paints that you might need in the future is 210. So that's actually a Fiat colour because they share their colours. So Peugeot and Fiat are basically, you know, when it comes to these vans, they're pretty much the same company. The Fiat Ducato and the Peugeot Boxer are exactly the same. So you've got a Fiat 210 is the white colour throughout the vehicle. Because you've got air conditioning in this vehicle, you have got a little sticker just here telling you a few bits of information on that, like the gas weight and all that sort of stuff. We've then got, I'll tell you more about this in a minute, chassis plate just here. There will be another chassis plate somewhere in the vehicle from when it was actually converted by Autosleeper, because this is your original Peugeot one. And that's it for the stickers. Down to the right, we've got your air filter inside this box down here. And because the engine battery sits under the floor in the cab, if you wanted to jump start the vehicle, you've got a little cover just here, which covers up a positive terminal that goes directly to the engine battery. And just here, we've got your negative terminal. So if you wanted to jump start the van from under the bonnet, positive terminal down here, negative up here. Okay, that's really important that you use that negative when you are jump starting the vehicle in the future. Again, there's nothing wrong with this vehicle as it stands, but if you ever needed a jump start, make sure that you do use this point just here. If you try and earth it off other things, especially this one over here, it can melt things out and stop other things from working. So really important to use that earth point that's just given to you there. This is all to do with the alarm. So this is your sounder for the alarm, and a little thing here to tell you that the actual thing is shut, the bonnet's shut. But yeah, so that's about it for under the bonnet. There's not much else I can show you under there. Inside the passenger door, just briefly, we have got the full cab blinds in this particular vehicle. So squeeze these two buttons in and that'll allow you to release the blind. Make sure that you go nice and gently with it and pull it all the way across like so. Put it all the way back nice and gently, and then wait for the click, which allows you to sort of know that it's definitely clicked back in properly. This little handle just here is the bonnet release handle, so that's what you would need to pull in order to release the bonnet. And as I said earlier on, your engine battery sits under the floor in the cab, and that is this plastic hatch down here under the carpet. Okay, underneath the passenger seat, we open this up, you've got your jack and wheel brace kit. So that's your you know, standard factory fitted jack in there. And the other chassis plate that I was talking about is this one just here. So this one here is the one you need to go off in the future if you ever needed any actual information, or if you, I don't know, if you got pulled over for something and they were asking you about your weights and things, this is the one that you need to look at. So this is the most up-to-date chassis plate that you've got on the van. Tyre pressures are on this little sticker here, and that's it. So Inside this little hatch just here, we've got your diesel filling point at the top, which you will need your ignition key for, and your AdBlue filling point just underneath that. So because it's quite a modern vehicle, you do need the AdBlue just to keep the emissions down and things like that. So on the near side of the vehicle, we've got your full-size 2-lay Omnistore awning across the top of the van. There is a winder for that just inside the habitation door here. Okay. So the first locker we get to is just a really good storage locker underneath this near side seat. So you can get to this from inside just by lifting the seat up. All right, and you are on gas struts there, so it will hold itself up as well. This little winder here is for your rear steadies. So if you had a look under the back of the vehicle, you'll see there's some little winders that will wind down just to steady up the vehicle a little bit and stop it from wobbling around so much. Okay. You've got a little wet locker down here as well. So if you open this up, you'll see that you've got like a wet storage locker, so you can put anything in there that, you know, it's not going to cause any damage or any damp to anything inside the vehicle. When we open this one up here, we've got an external mains socket. Okay, so if you're hooked up on the mains with the hookup plugged in on the other side of the van, you can use that external mains socket if you want to. And next door to that, we've got our external gas point. So if you've got your gas switched on, which, because you've got an underslung tank on this vehicle, is pretty much always on unless you go underneath and turn it off from the valve. So if you have the awning wound out, you can have the awning light on just there and your barbecue plugged into that external gas point. So that's the idea behind it being on this side. Now on this particular vehicle, you've got two options of filling up the freshwater tank. So you've got this little valve just here, twist it around to the left, and that will then come out in your hand. So that is your standard freshwater filling point. So if you've got a hose or, you know, whatever you have to pour into there, that'll fill up the fresh tank directly. And there is another one on the other side, which I'll show you as we get to it. So behind the habitation door here, we've got these two vents. So these two vents are both to do with the fridge. So if you were to take either of these two off, you would just see, you know, spaghetti junction of cables and pipes and things. So don't worry too much about doing that. It's more so for us when we're doing our servicing and things like that. So don't worry about that, but that is just the back of the fridge in case you were wondering. On the actual habitation door itself, we have got a fixed window, so you can't open this window, but because it is a window, you've got a blackout blind from the bottom, and I can't reach it, but a fly screen down from the top. Actually, no, you might not have a fly screen because it's a fixed window. Beg your pardon. Just a blackout blind on this one, sorry. Doesn't make sense to have a fly screen because you can't open the window, so that'll be why. So yeah, that's on the window there. Bin at the bottom, just here as well, just a factory fitted one to go with this door. And then a nice little thing on this one as well is you have got the full fly screen that comes all the way across the door there and meets up with this little bit of fabric, so anything will, you know, nothing can get through there basically, no flies or anything. So you can have the door completely wide open with the fly screen across and get loads of nice fresh air coming in. You've got an electronic step down here which has got a little switch inside the door, so when I press on this just the once, step comes in and out. Okay, so it's working really well. It also, when you start the engine up, it will start beeping at you if you've left the step out, and basically what it means is that it's just realizing that the step's out and it should bring it in by itself. So you shouldn't have to worry about that in the future either. So at the back of the vehicle, we have got reversing camera up at the top, some really nice LED lights on the back of the van here. As you can see, they're all separate, really nice modern lights. And you have actually got, so from standard, they come with these bars on the back. Okay, now these bars are basically just bars for bike rack fitting. So if in the future you wanted a bike rack fitted to the vehicle, you've already got the brackets there, and it's literally a case of taking these little end caps off and then putting a screw in to the arms. So it's really, really quick and easy. But they just fit those as standard to a lot of vehicles. So yeah, that's what they are. Those winders that I was saying about, the steadies, you should probably have to put the arm through this hole, and then you'll be able to get to the winder for it. So have a little go with that if you want to. Okay, so on the off side of the vehicle, we have got, if we look down at the bottom here, we've got your waste drain off point. So if you want to drain out the waste tank, twist this valve just here, and all of the wastewater will start pumping out through that little valve at the bottom. When you're not using that, you can put this little cap back over if you want to. Don't have to, but it's there if you want to use it. The next thing we get to is the toilet cassette locker. So this is a standard Thetford toilet cassette. So to use it, we lift up on the little blue tab at the front and pull the cassette towards us. Once you've got it to this position here, you will then be able to take it all the way out and take it to wherever you need to go to. So, to drain the cassette, twist this valve open and take the cap off. Okay, so that's where you would physically drain it out from. When you're draining it out from there, make sure that you're holding this little blue button down at the back to allow a little bit of excess pressure to come out through the front. Okay, so industry standard, pretty much every motorhome has one of these Thetford toilet cassettes. Once you've emptied it out from here, use this cap here as a guide to fill, basically about 1 cap's worth normally of blue fluid goes back inside the cassette. Give it a little swish around and then push it all the way back home until you hear that click. Once you've heard that click, you can know for a fact that it's definitely back in and located properly and ready to use again. So the next thing we see is the electric hookup. So having access to a hookup cable is really handy. Essentially what it means is that if you have got a hookup plugged in, the battery charger springs to life and starts charging up your leisure battery. It also means you have access to using any of your mains powered appliances. And so pretty much, once you've got the hookup plugged in, you don't have to worry about anything at all. And you could just use everything you want forever. So you don't have to worry about your battery voltages or anything like that. In the same same breath, you have got a solar panel on the roof of this van. So the battery voltage is very, very good anyway. So you don't have to worry about it too much, but it's just one of those things. So this vent just here is the heating and hot water vent. This is your Truma iNet ready boiler vent. So if you have got the boiler lit up, make sure that you don't go touching this vent because it will get pretty hot. And also don't worry about if it starts producing a little bit of condensation at the bottom here. Totally normal, and it will drop down and run off. Absolutely normal, don't worry about that at all. Okay, so you've then got these 3 things just here. So this is so on the other side of the van that I was saying about with your freshwater filling point, this is the other option that you've got for filling up the fresh tank. So in the van, you will find in the wardrobe, there's a little plug that you can plug straight into this. And what it will do is it will then drop down into another tank. So it's got like a little pump on the end of it. So this is for if you've got like a rollaway tank that you can wheel up to the vehicle. If you don't have access to a hose point near the van or something, you can bring your water tank to the van, plug your sort of little pump thing in here and drop the pump into the tank, and that will then suck the water from the tank outside up and into the water tank inside the van. Okay, so that's your 2 options that you've got for filling up the fresh tank on this particular vehicle. We've then got your external 12 volt and aerial sockets, just a standard thing that they have nowadays, and your refillable gas filling point. So push in and round to the left to allow this to come out, and that will then reveal your bayonet fitting filling point. It's a bayonet fitting in the UK. Okay, if you're going to go abroad, you have to bear in mind that every other country has its own sort of valve to go onto this to sort of what do you call it? I don't know, if you're going to go to Italy or France, they've all got their own different adapters, what the word I'm trying to look for, adapter. So you have to just consider that. But yeah, gas filling point from there, super easy. I don't need to explain that in much more detail, to be honest. Underneath the vehicle, we've got your freshwater drain off point. So just the same as the wastewater, although this one's blue, so you know that this one's the fresh. So that is where you would drain out your fresh tank from, and the grey one at the back is the waste. So, in the actual cab itself, I've got a few cushions up and things in the back, don't worry about that, I'll show you that in a minute. So, first things first, you've got this little gauge down here, okay? So if you have the engine turned on, you should have this little gauge spring to life and tell you roughly how much gas you've got in the refillable tank. Okay, so quite literally low and high. So yeah, nothing particularly interesting about that, apart from the fact that you can keep your eye on the level of gas in the tank. And on that same point, just before I forget as well, up underneath the vehicle, on the side of the actual tank itself, you will find that there's a little cover that you can take off with a little valve inside. So if you want to turn the gas off, you know, properly from underneath the vehicle, you can go clockwise round to the right on the valve to turn it off, and anti-clockwise round to the left to turn it back on again. These refillable tanks are pretty often just left on all the time. But if you do need to turn it off, if you need to do some work inside or whatever it might be, then you can do it from underneath. It does say that here as well. Okay. Right, so first things first in the cab, as with all of these Fiats or Peugeot cabs, make sure that you don't hurt yourself when you jump out of the vehicle on this handbrake. So I promise you it hurts a lot when you jump out and catch yourself on this, so please just be careful when you're jumping out. You've also got a full alarm system on here. To be honest, it does arm itself when you lock and unlock the cab anyway, so just use this as a normal key. Lock in the middle, unlock at the top, and unlocking the habitation doors at the bottom. So the hab door is actually central locking as well. Okay, so the actual cab itself, you've got a nice high spec in here, or a very high spec actually. So you can lock and unlock the cab from this little button here on the door. You've got your electric windows from this one, and your electric adjusting mirrors from this one here. As I mentioned, on the other side, you've got the full cab blinds. So what I mean by that is that you've got the blinds on the front windscreen here as well. The way that the windscreen ones are slightly different, the way that they work is slightly different, where they have to actually meet together in the middle before they'll latch together, because they've got a little magnetic strip on each side, so they will just clasp together. So you can't just do one side or the other, you have to do both. Okay. So, to the right of the steering wheel, we've got your start-stop switch just here, so you can turn it on and off from there. Fog lamp and your headlight adjustments from there. We've then got your washers and wipers on the right-hand stalk as usual. Lights and indicators on the left. If we look underneath, we've also got speed limiter and cruise control. So you can select either way on here to choose one or the other. You can cancel it and resume it on the button here, and then set the speed by going up and down like so. We've then got your reversing camera screen just up here, so that should engage when you select reverse. 6-speed manual gearbox. If we have a little look underneath here, you can see we've got an auxiliary point, or a USB socket, sorry, just down here. Okay, you've got another one at the top just here as well, and a standard sort of cigarette lighter socket there as well. You have got, this is obviously an aftermarket thing, but somebody has fitted this in the past and left it in quite nicely for you for the next owner. We've also got the more modern doubled in size head unit here. So this is factory fitted, this is standard, but this is the more modern version. So you've got the sat nav there, phone connection, all sorts of stuff on there, so you can do everything on that. It's got a proper screen, LCD screen on there. Okay, so nice high spec on that one. Both of these front seats swivel round, so you've got a little red tab on the front of each seat. When you lift the tab up and spin the seat, it will go all the way around. Okay. The only other thing in the cab really are the sort of heater controls here. I very rarely explain the heater controls because they're very straightforward, apart from the fact that you've got your air conditioning switch from this button here. So the little amber light has to be on the front of this for the air conditioning to be turned on. Okay. All right, so I think I've pretty much covered everything for the cab. I don't think there's much else that I can show you through. So with these motorhomes, and well, most decent brand motorhomes, you have got the ability to walk through into the cab from the back end of the van with no problem at all. So it's not tight in there whatsoever to get through. So just briefly, if I just sort of run you through the layout of the van and some sort of general things. So you've got this huge overcab skylight up here, which does open. So release these little latches here on the sides and then use this thing here to wind it open. Okay, you've also got fly screen and a blackout blind as well underneath that you can use on this one. So that's a really nice thing to have. All I will say is please be careful with this when you're using it, and also like, I can't stress this enough, please don't drive with this open. That's like, I can't stress that enough. Unfortunately, these particular skylights are unbelievably expensive. So, and I mean, I really do mean unbelievably expensive. So just really be careful with these skylights. Just be careful with it. Doesn't mean that, you know, they're not super fragile and they're not going to fall apart on you. But just when you're using them, just be a little bit mindful of the fact that they are just plastic at the end of the day. So just consider that. It's the same with every skylight and all the windows as well, actually. Again, unfortunately with motorhomes, the windows and skylights and things like that are like some of the most expensive parts on the van. So please God, don't drive with any of the windows open, any of the skylights open. Shut everything before you start driving. Okay, they are not designed to be driven down the motorway at 60 mile an hour whilst open. All right, so that little boring bit out of the way, I will sort of just explain to you the layout. So we've got the two side settees just here. Okay, now literally it takes about 5 seconds to make this bed up. So what I mean is, you quite literally pull this side into the middle, pull that side into the middle, and then pull the cushions out to lay flat. It takes seconds. Okay, so that's a really good, at least 6 foot wide bed, and you know, really nice and wide double bed there. So really quick and easy to get that bed made up. If I just have a little look through the cupboards, loads of storage, by the way. These cupboards are really nice and deep, although not making it feel sort of cramped inside the vehicle. So that's a nice thing as well. Just having a little look to see if there's anything I need to point out. So in this cupboard here, you might notice on the top this little box here that says Truma iNet box. So this is basically a unit which will allow you to connect your phone to your heating and hot water system. Now, I will be honest, you don't have to do this, okay? A lot of people will just use the iNet Ready system with the controller, which is this one here, by the way, which I'll explain to you how to use. But if you want to go through there and have a go with that, then you can do. There's no harm in trying it. But we just find that a lot of our customers just ignore that, to be completely honest with you. But, you know, give it a go if you want to. Just take a little bit off there. Right, so that's your beds and the little iNet box there. In the wardrobe, we have got a couple of things. So you've got your full-size table just here. So this is a full-size standalone table, which will stand in the middle just here with loads of room either side of it. You'll also notice that you've got a small sort of silver hatch in the floor there, which is designed to have this pole put down into it and have this table sitting on top of the pole. So in other words, it's a small table that sits at the front of the van. Because the front seats swivel round, it gives you like a nice little small dinette at the front instead. So it's up to you how you want to use it. The full original carpets are in the cupboard here as well, and a few little bits and bobs that the previous owner has left behind. From my point of view on the video, the only thing that I need to show you in here is these 3 little valves in the corner. So these are your gas isolators. So if you wanted to isolate the gas from an appliance individually, then you can twist these 90 degrees so they're facing upright or vertical, and that will then isolate the gas to that specific appliance. So if you want to turn the gas off entirely, then you need to go underneath the van and turn off the valve on the side of the tank that I told you about a minute ago. But if you have an individual issue with a specific appliance, then you can isolate them one by one from here. So the top one is the cooker. So that's your oven and grill and 3 burners. Middle one is the fridge, and the bottom one is the boiler. Okay. So again, please don't turn them off every time you get out of the van. It's totally unnecessary. But if you think that you've got an issue with a specific appliance, then you can do that from there. The other thing in the wardrobe here is this little thing here that says Max View on it. So this is your TV aerial booster. So if you wanted to boost the signal coming into the vehicle to get a decent signal inside, then you can turn this on from here, and that'll then turn on the booster. That's already all wired in and hooked up. Okay. The other thing before I get into the actual bulk of the video, you know, the appliances and things like that, is this area down here. There's a reason I've lifted up this seat. So this offside seat is a really important one, like super important locker. So there's not necessarily anything that you need to be in here doing as such, but you do need to know what all of this does and what it all means, so that you know about things in the future. So first things first, you've got your power supply unit. Okay, so this is what this big silver unit is here that says Sergeant on it. So it's a Sergeant EC 700, so that's actually a really, big unit, really. Nice high spec unit. Now, the Sergeant power supply unit is essentially the heart of the vehicle. So this is kind of like everything electronic, including the leisure battery power, engine battery power, hookup power, everything like that, comes to here and then gets diverted around the vehicle to wherever it needs to go to. Okay, so this is the heart of the vehicle for the electronics. So on the left hand side, you've got pretty big bank of fuses just here. There will be a handbook inside the vehicle somewhere telling you what each one of these does. Okay, now as I said, you don't have to do anything with this, but if one of these fuses has blown, you should get a little red light or green light, I can't remember which colour they are, but a little light underneath them next to the number telling you that the fuse has blown. So if it loses its signal from one side to the other, it will light up down there. Okay, so that's all of your 12 volt stuff just there. You've also got another button at the top there that says system shutdown. Don't worry about doing that. You don't need to do that in any situation. It just essentially turns everything off. It's like a main on and off isolator for everything. But you will find that when you press that button, or if you press it, you will start to confuse the control panel and things like that, because it kind of forgets what it is. So don't worry about that button there. That's more so for us when we're doing other jobs. On the right hand side of this, we've got a little bank at the top here, so one that says charger. So when you plug the hookup cable in, this switch here will come to life and tell you that the charger is on, because the charger itself sits inside this box. And the other one here that says heating and hot water. So the other one here, you just leave them both on. Okay, so when you plug the hookup cable in, these will probably both light up. All right, so that's completely normal. That's what you want. You want these both to be lit up. Okay, the heating and hot water one, when that lights up amber, doesn't mean that the heating and hot water is on. It just means that you've got the 240 volt power being allowed to the controller that is up there on the control panel, which I'll run you through in a minute. So as I said, these two can be on all the time when the hookup is plugged in. The other thing is this little button here. It's not actually a button, sorry, it's a little light. So it says reverse polarity on it. Now, if you go to a different country and they've got the live and neutral, I think, switched around, whichever one it is, then it will sort of light up just here. And normally it will still work, everything will still power up on the mains, but it will tell you here if you've got that reverse polarity. And what it will normally mean is that you won't, if something was to trip or wanted to trip inside the van, it might not work, it might not trip because the polarity is switched around. All right, so it's not necessarily something to really panic about, but it's just something that you need to keep your eye out on. If you plug into something in the UK and it says reverse polarity on there, then there's a problem with something. Okay, probably the cable. And then the last thing is the trip switches down here. So you probably saw just then, when I got to it, it was like this. So the main RCD trip switch was down. So I push it up like that, and that just tells me that it's now back on. So when I plug the hookup cable back in, everything mains powered will spring to life. Next to that, we've got MCBs. So on that bit of paperwork that I was telling you about with the information on the fuses, you will also have some information on the MCBs telling you which one does what appliance. So they'll do individual appliances. Okay. And that's that. The little unit to the left hand side, to be honest, you don't need to know about this, but it's just a little 12 volt D plus unit, which is to do with the split charger. So when your engine's running, it means that it powers up and charges the leisure battery at the same time, so that when you get to where you're going, your battery is fully charged. And it also gives you a power source to the fridge as well. Okay, again, I'll explain that in more detail when we get to the fridge. So to the left of that, we've got a couple of things. So this is just the back of the 12 volt and aerial socket that I showed you outside, so don't worry about that. This is the back of the LPG filling point, so don't worry about that. It's just nicely covered up from factory. This little thing down here, please don't touch this, and please don't nudge it if you're going to start loading up this cupboard. This is a very fragile and very important little piece of equipment. So this is your pressure valve, or pressure switch, sorry, for your water pump. So if you start adjusting this little valve at the top, it's obviously made to be adjusted, but if you start adjusting it, you'll find that either the pump won't have any pressure or the pump will never turn itself off. So at the moment, this is set up in the perfect position. All right, and if you put anything in here and nudge all of this, it will then just start causing you issues. So just allow this a little bit of space over here on the right hand side. Okay, this little black unit just here with the blue valve on the top and the blue button is one of the most important things in the entire vehicle. So this is your boiler drain off point. Okay, so quite simply, if you wanted to drain the water out from inside the boiler, in other words, if you wanted to winterize the van, then you would just twist this valve at the top so that it faces left to right of the vehicle rather than front to back. And what will happen is this little blue button at the bottom will push out towards us. Once that little blue button's pushing out towards us, every single bit of water from inside the boiler will drain down onto the floor, okay, outside. So if you want to drain the water out from the boiler to winterize it, that's how you would do it. The other thing to point out on these is this is actually an automatic drain off valve. So if you leave the van to get so cold inside, when it gets to about 3 or 4 degrees, it will drop the water out automatically. So long story short, when you come back to the vehicle, it's always a good practice to poke your head in here and make sure that it looks just like this. So this is facing this way and this button is pushed in, so that you know that the boiler hasn't dropped all of its water out. Okay. And then the last thing in this little locker here is your leisure battery. Now this is actually a lithium battery, and so really nice high spec lithium battery here. Not the biggest battery in the world, but they don't need to be because they're a bit more powerful. Okay, so yeah, not much. You haven't got to do anything with this. I'm just pointing out to you, this is your leisure battery just here. Okay, so that's about it for this locker. This is a really important locker that's why it's taken me a little while to show you through that one. It's just really important to understand what you got going on in here. So above the habitation door, we've got our control panel on the right. This is your main sort of control panel. And then we've got your Truma boiler control panel here as well. So on the main control panel here, it tells you a few bits of information on the main screen. We've got external temperature, humidity, and internal temperature. Okay, if I'm completely honest with you, that humidity one is not correct. Obviously, we're not in the Amazon rainforest, so that's not right. Unfortunately, these things are a little bit temperamental. It's like a nice idea from the factory, but it's very rare that they actually work properly, in my experience. So if you can, just ignore that, really. So we've got a main power switch on the left-hand side. We've then got water pump switch just here, which you can turn on and off like so. And that will then just telling us the fresh water level is quite low. That will then allow us to draw the water through the taps. Okay, cold to the right, hot to the left. So just briefly, before I carry on, really important that you make sure that the boiler is full of water before you start trying to use it. So if you want to get the water hot, you have to make sure that the boiler's full first. Now, the only way to double check that the boiler's full is quite literally just by lifting the tap up on the hot side, sorry, like this, and just seeing that there's water coming through the tap nice and clearly. If the boiler wasn't full of water, you would not get water coming through nice and clearly like that. It would be coughing and spluttering and going all over you. Okay. If you find that it does start coughing and spluttering and going all over you, all you have to do is make sure, first of all, that your boiler drain is closed off like it is now. Then make sure that you've got enough water in the fresh tank. Fresh level, bit low at the moment, but I know that there is some in it at the moment, but anyway. Make sure that you've got water in the fresh tank as well. And then quite literally, just wait for the water to start coming through like this. As soon as the water starts coming through like that, the boiler's full of water, and you can use it however you want to. Okay. So as you probably just saw there, when I press on this button here, I can flick through. It shows us the freshwater and wastewater levels. and all of our battery voltages. So we've got leisure battery voltage, vehicle battery voltage, battery current, so that's how much power is being drawn from the battery at any one time, mains current, so we've got no hookup plugged in at the moment, so that's not saying anything, and our solar current, so we've got 1.3 amps coming in from the solar panel. Okay, and that's it. The other switches are internal lights, external lights, and if you wanted to switch the leisure battery from the battery that's being used from leisure to vehicle, then you can press this little button here and it will start using the vehicle battery power instead of the leisure. So you see now it says V in there and now it says L. So we want it to be on L 9 times out of 10 because the leisure battery is the thing that we need to be powering up the back end of the van for obvious reasons. If we start using the vehicle battery to power the lights and the pump and stuff like that, then it's going to quickly draw the power out from the vehicle battery and you'll be stuck in a field somewhere without being able to drive it. So make sure that you leave it on leisure when you're using the power. The only reason that you would ever want to use that switch is if you're plugged into the mains, if you've got the hookup plugged in, and you switch over to vehicle battery on that button up there, it will actually start charging the vehicle battery instead of the leisure. So if your vehicle battery is flat and you have the hookup plugged in, you can charge it via the hookup by pressing that button to vehicle. That's the only reason you would ever need to use that, really. And the last button is your settings. So you can just go, have a little flick through here, see what's going on. You've got tank heaters for fresh and waste just there, so you can choose those to on and off if you want to in the winter. And that's it, just have a little flick through there. Not much very interesting in there to know about, to be completely honest. So yeah, that is your control panel. So the heating and hot water is from this one just here, as I said a minute ago. So this is your Truma iNet Ready system. Now it's got your time on here. When you press the center button again, brings you through to this main sort of control panel menu area. So if you flick through here just by scrolling, you can see we've got 7 different options on the screen here. So we've got heating, hot water, energy use, and fan speed. The rest of them are just, timers, clock set, and settings. Okay, so basically, if you want to use the heating, press on this one here, and then scroll through to set a temperature which is higher than the internal temperature of the vehicle. Okay, so now that I've done that, I've chosen a temperature which is like 26, so it's obviously higher than 16. You can see now I've got some things above the black line, so it tells me that the boiler is on and starting to do something. Okay, next one over is our hot water. So if I press on, we've got off, eco, hot, or boost. Okay, they are your 3 options for the hot water. Right, it's given us a fault code there, and I will explain to you why in just a second, so don't worry about that fault code. So eco, hot, or boost. Okay, so I'm going to leave that on hot for a minute. So the next one over is our energy selector. So this is the reason that we've been given a fault code. Okay, so at the moment on our energy selector, we've got electric 1 selected. So this is just from when we were doing the hab check. Okay, now because there's no hookup plugged in, I cannot use electric 1 or electric 2. Okay, so EL1 or EL2 are not going to work at all. Mix 2 and Mix 1 are also not going to work because that's a mixture of electric 1 and 2 with gas. Okay, so the only option that I've got right now is gas. When I turn that on there, it will then start springing to life. Okay, fault code goes away, and now our heating and hot water are going to spring to life. Okay, the last little one we've got there, the little fan option, if I scroll through there again, fan option, we've got eco or high, and that is just going to determine how fast the air pumps through to these little vents here. Okay, you've got them dotted around the vehicle all over the place. So that is just your fan speed for the heating. Okay, and that's it, to be honest. That is all there is to it. So if you're hooked up on the mains, you can use electric 1 or 2, or mix 1 or 2 if you want to use both gas and electric. If you don't have the hookup plugged in and you do have the gas on, you have to use it on the gas. Okay, so to turn it all off, back down to off for the heating, back to off for the hot water, And now there's nothing above that black line, so I know that the entire system is turned off. Okay, and that's it. So what else do we have? So we've got obviously your sink just there that I showed you briefly a second ago. Absolutely loads of storage throughout the vehicle, just all over the place, storage everywhere. Now we've got your Thetford cooker area just here. So you've got a 3-burner hob with ignition just here. Okay, so just in and round to the left with the ignition. Will light up whichever one you want. You have got a little diagram on the front of this little glass panel telling you which one does what. You've also got the electric ring in the back. Now this won't do anything at all unless the hookup cable is plugged in. Okay, so that is just by this little valve on the left hand side. Okay, below that we've got the grill. So leave the grill door open if you're using it. And then the oven at the bottom. So the grill is this one just here. And the oven is this one. All with this ignition switch here. Okay. You've got an extractor and lights just here as well. I'll turn the light switches back on. All right. So that's a good thing to remember actually. Make sure that you have the light switches turned on if you want to use that. So I'll show you into the bathroom next, just because I've got a tendency to forget that. So the lights are little touchscreen ones. Okay, up and over the top. So these are quite clever really. These little bathroom layouts are quite clever. So without trying to trap myself in it too much, if I pull on this little door here and push that out of the way, you can see this comes all the way across, and we can then pull this side across to make our full-size separate shower room. Okay, hopefully no one comes in and sees me in the shower on my own in here. So that's your shower door just there, and to pull this back again you literally just pull on this, make sure that you put that back like I didn't just then. Pulls all the way back, and that's back in position there. Okay, so that's how you'd make this sort of shower area just there. It doesn't take very long, and it's much easier when you don't have a camera in your hand. So right, so literally hot and cold tap there for the shower, nice and easy. Hot and cold tap there for the sink. The only thing that I normally actually explain in the bathrooms is the toilet. So if you haven't used one of these ones before, you might not know how to use it. So the sink will swivel around to wherever you want it to go to, first of all. Okay, so you just put that wherever you need it to be. You've then got a blue button at the back just here. When I press the blue button, the flush water pumps around through into the toilet. Okay, then when you want to drain it into the cassette, push this handle to the right and it drains everything into the cassette. Push the handle back to where it was and that's it. It really is as simple as that. Okay. All right, so that is the bathroom. So I think the fridge is probably the next thing to show you. Although you've got the original factory fitted Dometic microwave here as well. Okay, so again, a mains powered appliance. Okay, so this will not do anything at all unless the hookup is plugged in. Same goes for any of these 3-pin sockets. Okay, your 12-volt sockets and USB points will work without the hookup plugged in, but these ones will need the hookup to be plugged in. So the fridge is a sort of industry standard Thetford fridge. So being the sort of high spec vehicle that this one is, you have got the highest spec version of it. So when I press this little button just here is your main on and off switch. Okay, kind of brings the panel back to life as well. Now when I press this button here on the left, it flicks through the different options that we've got to get the fridge cold. Now because it's the top spec one, you have got this little A button here, which stands for automatic, and will automatically choose the correct option for you on the fridge. Okay, so it's genuinely as simple as that. If you want to use just the A option, just press that and it should just flick through and choose the right one all the time. Okay. Otherwise, if you want to know how to do it manually, we've got mains electric, which is this little symbol here that you can see flashing, giving us a fault code because the hookup is not plugged in. Okay. We've got 12-volt electric, little battery symbol, giving us another fault code because the engine isn't running. So earlier on, when I said about the split relay, the split charger, when the engine's running, it will then send its signal feed back to the fridge, and this won't be flashing anymore. It will just stay solid, and it will be keeping the fridge cold whilst you're driving. Okay. And the other option that you've got is gas, which is the only option that we can actually use right now. And what it will do is when you select it, it will try and light up by itself. You don't have to do anything to do that. It will do it all by itself. And then all you need to do is set the temperature on the right. Okay. Now, the gas and the mains electric are the only two ways that the fridge will get cold. And that's the same with every single motorhome fridge. Okay, apart from maybe like a 12-volt compressor fridge. The reason for that is that the 12-volt option is not powerful enough by itself to get the fridge cold. And as I said earlier, the only time it works is when the engine is running. Okay, so you have to pre-cool the fridge either on the gas or on the mains before you drive off to where you're going. When you're driving, switch over to 12-volt, your little battery symbol, to keep the fridge cold whilst you're on the move. But that is the way that you have to use it. So pre-cool the fridge before you leave on gas or mains electric, and 12-volt just for when you're driving. And you will notice, if you do choose the A option here, you will notice that's exactly what it will do. If your hookup's plugged in, it will choose the mains hookup. If the hookup isn't plugged in and the engine's not running, it will choose gas. If the engine's running, it will choose 12-volt. Okay? And that's how you need to use it. Also bear in mind that, again, industry standard, same with every motorhome fridge, every three-way motorhome fridge, it will still take a good 3 or 4 hours or so to get completely cold. So you do have to consider that. If you're going to go away on holiday tomorrow morning, you might want to consider how long you need to leave the fridge on for before you head off. Okay? But that's it. So nice and simple. I'll turn the fridge off from pressing and holding this button here. All the lights go out, and that's it. So, TV has been fitted just here on the bracket. And I think, to be honest with you, I think that's about it. I don't think there's much else that I can show you. It's been quite a long video, purely for the sense that it's got loads of optional extras on it and, you know, just all sorts I have to show you. So, sorry about that. It's been a bit of a long one. But hopefully that's been informative. I'm Jordan from P&P Campers in Gosport. And so if you need any more help with anything, just give us a shout. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.